hit the subscribe button. Or don't. I really don't care one way or the other. Welcome everybody to my latest video. So for this video, I figure we take another trip down memory lane and let's talk, or in your case, let's hear about the time when I purchased Street Fighter 2 for the Super Famicom. Now, of course, the Super Famicom is the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. Way back in the day of the 16-bit battles, it was the Super Nintendo versus the Sega Genesis. And, you know, people love Super Nintendo, people love Sega Genesis. They would always argue which one was better. One thing that helped the Super Nintendo definitely sell more units was getting Street Fighter 2. Now, also back in the day, Japan pretty much always got everything first. Whether it was games, game systems, sometimes you'd have to wait 6 months to a year before those items would be brought to America for purchase. So when all the magazines started, rolling out information about Street Fighter 2 coming to the Super Nintendo, all of us, we all wanted it. Street Fighter 2 was, the game back in the day. Always had long crowds, big crowds, lines at the arcades. People wanted to play the game, and people definitely wanted it for their Super Nintendo. Well, there was a little mom and pop video game store that I used to go to. I talked about this place before. It was called P&L Video Games, and they would get all the Japanese stuff. They'd always import it. It was just a fun store. And yeah, they had Street Fighter 2 for the Super Famicom for sale. This was months and months. I maybe 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year before it would be released for the Super Nintendo. I can't quite remember the time frame. But the cost, if I remember correctly, was $130, $129.99. Somehow I had enough money. I don't remember how I got the money. I don't know if I sold a bunch of Nintendo games. I don't know if I just saved up my money. Somehow or another, I had enough money. Maybe it was when I was recording indecent videos for my fellow classmates during the summer. I cannot remember, but I definitely had the money, and I decided I'm gonna get Street Fighter 2. Now, of course, my family thought I was crazy. Back then, spending $130 in, was it 1994? 93? Can't remember. But yeah, spending that much for one video game, it was just, wow. That was crazy. So, saved up all my money, including tax, so probably would have come out to whatever it was. Probably $130 plus tax, so probably about $145. Went there, got the game, so mesmerized. Took it home. Now, one thing about me is I always enjoyed the box art and everything that came with my video game. To give you a little feedback, when I would get a game, I would keep all the inserts, all the instructions. I would even keep the plastic bag that the game came wrapped in. I was very, very meticulous with my stuff. And the Famicom, the Super Famicom box artwork, it was just amazing. It always blew away the Super Nintendo artwork. yeah, I got home, and for the first who knows how long, I was just mesmerized, just looking at the box, looking at all the inserts, just everything. So anyways, here I am. I'm ready, to insert the game, get my Super Nintendo, get it hooked up. It wasn't hooked up at the time. That's just because when I wasn't playing it, I would unhook it. Just the way my grandfather liked it. He didn't want stuff cluttered around. I was spending my summers with my grandfather. Might have been summer or maybe, school vacation of some sort. Get everything hooked up. Get my Super Famicom Street Fighter 2 cartridge. And I go to insert it, and it won't fit. What the heck's going on? The guy told me this will fit. The guy told me this will work on my Super Nintendo. Looking inside, I'm like, what's going on? Why is this not fitting? Call up the place. Now, I've gone through this particular story before in various parts, various other videos. Hey, I just purchased Street Fighter 2. It's not fitting in my Super Nintendo. What's going on? Guy tells me, oh, well, you need an adapter. And my heart just sank because I had just spent all my money. I had no more money left. How much is the adapter? I think he would have said it was, $19.99, $29.99, whatever it was. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm going to have to somehow convince my grandparents to let me do chores and to earn money. Because I wasn't going to get that money from my parents. My parents were very stingy when it came to any type of allowance or anything like that. They were very military background. I think my allowance, it just was non-existent. When it did exist, it was like $1 a week. Anyways, all this stuff's going through my head, and then I'm thinking, okay, even if I get my grandparents to agree to let me earn money, it's going to take at least a month to earn that type of money. So I'm just like, oh, all these things, just my mind's spinning. And then the guy tells me, or you know what, just bring me your Super Nintendo. Take me a couple minutes, and I'll fix it so that it works. No charge, because you just got the game. And I'm thinking, okay. So I convinced my grandfather to take me back to the store. Bring him my console, takes it, goes in the back of the shop, comes back a few minutes later. All right, works. No charge. I think he normally charged, $10 for the service or whatever. Maybe even more. But because I got the game right there, it was free of charge. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Super Nintendo, inside the slot where you put the game, there are two pieces of plastic, these plastic tabs. And they really serve no purpose other than to assist the Super Nintendo cartridge in standing, but they're really not needed. And I guess to prevent Super Famicom cartridges from being inserted. And that's it. He basically just, went back, got some pliers, maybe even some sort of a Dremel tool or something, and, cut away the slots. All good. Got back to my grandfather's house, hooked everything up, put in the game, and it worked perfectly, and I was just mesmerized. So here I am, the only person among my friends, possibly the only person in the entire school who had Street Fighter 2 available for play on the Super Nintendo. Because back then, very few people really knew about mom and pop video game stores, and even the ones that did know, just paying the prices for imported stuff was usually out of the question. So yeah, yeah, there is very much the possibility that I was the only kid in the entire school to have the game. And yeah, me and my friends, we just played the hell out of it. Did we know what we were doing? Of course not. Had I known then what I know now about Street Fighter 2, yeah, I could have, been the best at the school, but that's not the case. But yeah, it was a very interesting time. I played that game so much. Of course, I always used Ken. Dabbled very, very lightly in any other character. Maybe did a little bit of E-Honda with my classic combo of bear hug, jump, 100-hand slap. But those were the days. Eventually, despite the fact that I ended up trading in the game. I think because my friends couldn't come over to play as much as they could, and then I got bored of the game because, that was just usually how I was, and ended up trading in the game to P&L Video Games, and I traded it in for a used Sega Genesis. And it's funny because I call up the place and, hey, would you take a trade for a used Sega Genesis? Or maybe I actually went in there, and the guy's thinking. He's thinking. Obviously, this was before the U.S. version was released. And he goes, okay, you know what? I'll agree to the trade, but it has to be with the Altered Beast version, not Sonic the Hedgehog. I was like, hey, that's cool. But yeah, that is my memory lane of getting Street Fighter 2 for the Famicom, Super Famicom. If you have any questions, let me know. Until next time.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.